Welcome to the Scratch Cast. No, fluffed it already. It's not the Scratch Cast.
I know we're not allowed to call it the Scratch Cast because someone beat us to it. Yeah, so it is the Scratch Cafe talking turntablism.
Welcome to the Scratch Cast. We have Revrt here. Now, I've just asked him his accolades and what he has done, and he told me loads of dates and I can't remember. So I'm going to say this is Revrt. He won something on Red Bull. He won Red Bull.
No.
What happened in Red Bull?
Gave him wings.
Okay, I don't want to tread on any toes. So
I purposely did that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's leading to a better one, Liam.
So I am the 2018 and 2019 UK Vice Champion for Red Bull Freestyle.
Lovely.
And I came third in the DMCs in 2023, and I became the UK Vice Champion for DMC in 2024.
Lovely. What's a vice champion for the people that don't understand Queen's English?
Not the champion.
No, second place.
Second place. So second place for the UK.
We don't like the word runner-up, do we?
Nah, it was almost like
it cheapens it. I think.
It cheapens it. I mean, what I don't get is why, because it was a term that DMC used to use back in the day, and I don't know who came forward and just decided, okay, yeah, we're just going to get rid of that term.
Do you know what it was? I think it was all the children's programmes in the 90s. Remember they used to have like prize things that'd be like, and the runner-up is, and it just demeaned everybody. And I think it stuck in all the children's guts.
Congratulations on being an awesome turntablist. There's a spoon.
You're a runner-up.
Yeah, exactly. I just kind of I felt, well, I'm actually just going to borrow a term that technically the DMC's already used anyway. Yeah. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to, you can't, yes, it doesn't say it on the kind of because when you win the not when you win the DMC, if you come third or second, you're given these DMC branded slip mats that have first or runner up in this case. It just says runner up right across it. Yeah. And I kind of looked at that and I went, oh man, I'm just going to say vice champ just because technically it means the same thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I'm not claiming on anything that it isn't.
Yeah.
And it just sounds better in a way. I mean, you don't get runner-up president in America, do you? It's no like.
Have you seen Hamilton?
You have either the president or the vice president.
Yeah. Have you seen what happens to the vice president in Hamilton?
What is Hamilton?
So Hamilton. This is a sidetrack for everyone listening, but Hamilton is a rap-based theatre performance about Alexander Hamilton, who's one of the founding fathers of America.
That sounds very annoying.
Absolutely very good. It's honestly extremely very good. But the thing about it is I can't remember who it is. I think it's Jefferson wins and what's his name? Something Bo. Oh God, I can't remember his name. But he comes second. And he's like, oh, great, I'm going to be your vice president. And he's like, oh, first rule is I get to change that rule. And he basically changes that rule and kicks Thingy Burr. Yeah, I can't remember his name. He's something Burr, but kicks him out of it all. And I was like, oh, that's what happens to runner-up. So it's like, yeah, nice try at my championship, bitch.
Yeah.
But anyway, it wasn't quite like that with Tommy Peanuts this time around, was it?
Do you know what?
You're going there straight away.
No, honestly, I think, you know what, when on the evening of that night, I fully accept it. I well deserved to lose to Tommy because Tommy was just he was on point that night. So for those that don't know, Tommy he became the UK champion for DMC in 2024.
He did,
and
became seventh in the world.
Yeah, I just I think if I'm not mistaken, I DM'd him on and said, you know what, mate, fair play to you. You did really, really well. But yeah, on the evening at the UK competition, I didn't say this to Tommy because it was in the wake of being dubbed the champion, you got people coming around you all the time. But I said to myself, I fully deserved to lose to Tommy because he absolutely killed it that night. I felt like I did well. There were some technical issues that were on the evening.
There were a lot of technical issues on the evening.
So I want to say something now. I want to say something. So one of the things, I put in, I gave all my learnings as part of beat juggling course I've just put out, right? And I went through all the things like prep, mindset, and then on the day and stuff like that. And one of the things that I'm just in awe of you for doing, right, which I would recommend to anybody.
Oh, wait. So just for clarity, Dan and Revrt both entered the 2024 DMCs. They were both there live on the night, and this is where we get to this.
Yeah, fair point. One of the things that you did that I think is genius, and I would recommend to anybody else, is you weren't happy with the setup, so you stopped it.
No.
And I was like, good for you, man, because I was on just before you, and I wasn't happy with the setup, and I just ploughed on through it. And I'd like said to myself two things. I was like, just keep going and try to enjoy yourself. And I massively failed on the enjoy yourself because I had like ear splitting noise.
I just called it out for what it was, because I was in the audience watching the competitors play, and I was like, does this sound really naff, or is it the system? And then I got on stage, like you'd done your thing, and you and me both know what our routines are supposed to sound like. And I clocked it within about 2 seconds of my set, and I just went for it, and within like 2 seconds of it, I just called it. I went, no, I'm not doing this, because I want to deliver this routine sonically how it's supposed to hit sound. And I just pushed stop on the turntables, and I just said, it sounds awful, like you've got to turn this down, because the monitors were just distorting. They were. All the levels on my mixer were completely fine, and I just said, it's the front of house, the sound technique. But what the sound technician didn't do, he just turned the tops down. He didn't turn the sub down. So when I played, all you got was just a lot of low end and no mids on highs.
Out the front, that's
so
exactly
it was literally
how it sounded,
it would just sound like as if like, oh, by the way, I'm going to do my routine. If you want to hear it, stand outside.
It sounded like you had a high cut on.
Yeah, essentially, it's like having the filter on, and I'm doing the routine. So what it meant was that, I mean, the judges that were in the wings, it kind of meant that, I mean, I had John First next to me, and I think I had, I can't remember who the other judge was next to me, but John First was right next to me. He kind of, if I'm not mistaken, he had to kind of like pretty much lean in to the monitor. They all
were.
Yeah, they all had to like lean in to kind of work out what it was that I was doing. But the thing that I really loved about that, obviously I'm really proud that I kind of like, you stopped to do a bit of a quality control. The thing I was like pretty stoked on was when I got off stage, Prime Cuts came up to me, and he went, and he did pretty much the same thing that you said, Dan. He literally like, he came up to me and just, mate, fair play for you calling out the sound tech.
Yeah.
Because it's the one thing that can really ruin your delivery of your routine. It's not only the tech that you're using.
I'm here for 6 minutes, man.
Yeah,
6 minutes only.
Please let me, like, I've been practicing this for months. Please let me be able to deliver this in the way sonically that it needs to be delivered to the judges.
So let's talk about your routine, mate. Because, like, honestly, I was watching it last night.
Okay.
In preparation for this, it's one of those routines that I have watched back several times because I really like it.
Thanks.
And
man.
I think when I think about kind of you and Tommy as the two top spots, right? I think where Tommy gets you is he's got this very original style that is his own thing that he's created and he's kind of famous for. So I think he trumps kind of originality, and he's obviously deeply technical, right?
Very.
But from a like, I hate it when people say I'm a girl's girl. From a DJ's DJ point of view, right? I just really enjoy your set because I thought it's just like a mashup of all the stuff that I love. And I just would love to hear like your perspective on how do you come up with these things for people out there who are thinking of starting.
Man, I think the thing that takes up the most time, I think, with routines is just you are no longer looking. I feel like there's a big difference between someone that listens to music and for lack of a better term, us as DJs, we listen to music not just for the sake of listening to music. We listen to it almost, especially for people that do routines, we listen to music and look at it like as if it's a tool.
Yeah,
we look at it
micro level.
Yeah, so we go, well, I'm not just listening to this to enjoy it. Yes, I'm wanting to listen to it for enjoying it, but I'm wanting to listen to it and go, what is it about this that I could sonically and technically mess with? Is there any open elements in this tune? Is there a vocal that would sound good in a diss? is there a vocal in here that would be good for cutting up?
Yeah.
And especially, and
How
I've
are the
heard,
drums placed? Are
Yeah,
they
how
on
are the drum-
16ths?
how are the
Is
drum-
it a kick and a snare?
Yeah.
Is it kick, hi-hat, snare? Is it? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, there's all those
I'm
things.
with it.
Will it work with the juggle patterns that you're already really familiar with? That whole kind of thing, and and understanding how you can marry those elements into other tunes and kind of like making it a kind of like a pathway into another tune. But at the same time, some of the best routines I've seen aren't transition from one thing to the next. If you look at, for example, if this is like completely separate to it, it's a different thing. But if you look at, for example, JFB's routine, his World Championship routine from 2021, all of that was kind of like seamless all the way through. He didn't stop to change anything. There was a lot going on. If anyone who's technically minded on an S11 Pioneer DJM S11, and you watch that routine, if you really pick it apart and split hairs, you can really start to understand how technically challenging it is to pull off that kind of routine.
It's insane.
And then I look at routines like from Clever from the early 2000s, and it's just start and stop, and there's nothing wrong with that, because it's all about what you are going to deliver sonically to the tune that everyone's hearing out there.
Yeah.
Let me get all grumpy old man here, right?
Go on then.
Okay.
Go on, you grumpy old man.
From watching the recent DMC stuff, don't stop getting annoyed with me. I'm going to continue complaining about this, so basically you just got to get used to it.
Okay.
Beat juggling and turntablism has been less about turntablism and more about S11ism.
Okay.
Right?
S11ism.
Okay.
Right, it is
No, I
now for
hear you.
me.
It's
It is
mixerism.
S11ism, because you could literally have a couple of clay. You know the things people make clay on,
Oh, what, like
the clay things.
Yeah,
the clay, you
yeah.
know when they do this.
yeah. It's like a kind of
You could literally put two phase sticks
My part-
onto what your partner. Yeah, you should get, actually that'd be a good bit of social media for you. Two clay things, right, and two phase, but you could literally have anything next to it, right, and just get good at the S11. If you're good at the S11, it does not matter.
Put them on two fans.
Two fans. That's already been done. But yeah, right. And my issue at the moment, and where I find myself veering away, so I'm hoping you're going to inspire me to enjoy S11ism a little bit.
Okay.
Is back in the day, all the sets I love, it was a 2-channel mixer, 1 crossfader, 2 turntables, and 2 records, and you had to do what you were doing with nothing. Whereas now you got cue points, you got, like, you know what I mean, effects, you can start making your own set on the computer to run through.
Yeah.
And I feel like the magic's gone a little bit, because you're running a computer with really big buttons that's made to be very easily performed, and the moment you get good at S11, you're a badass S11ism. The S11ist.
So let's okay. I can understand that's there will be. I can understand there will be people probably listening to this that will be of your opinion.
You're wrong.
No,
by the way.
it's not. No, it's not an opinion. It's definitely what I see. And the thing is, I don't form an opinion.
Well, it's
until
not
I'm
just an
expert.
opinion. It's like it's a kind of.
It's how I feel.
And it's a perception of what you believe is the source and the kind of real core thing that makes a DJ a DJ.
No. It's what turns me on as a person.
Okay, well, careful.
I'm
12 inches turned me on.
I'm sat between two very good S11ists. Come on, I'm going to get a little bit fruity, aren't I?
Mate. Wherever floats your boat, mate. Wherever floats your boat.
Exactly, it's not bloody an S11. Anyway, come on. So tell me what's going on there.
I've been in discussions with DJs in the past that have like made this argument that I've heard. To be honest with you, I've heard both sides of the coin. I've heard people come up to me go, like, when are you going to move on to like using CDJs? But I've then had people like say to me, when are you when are you just going to? Why can't you just do straight vinyl? And I'm just like, when the argument that I have to people that telling me to jump to CDJs is just because of the background that I have and the association that I have with turntables. It doesn't.
It's an emotional connection.
Well, I mean, look,
it doesn't move me at all.
I fix and service turntables and CDJs, and CDJs are not good for record manipulation. They're not good for the control is just terrible. They're not built for it. So I understand the big.
Do you know what? I don't know. I just used an RX2 for a while, which is for anyone listening, it's a Pioneer bit of kit. It's an older controller now. And I was doing it because I get lots of questions, like quite a lot of the time, you know, is this scratch course suitable for people who are on controllers? And I was like, you know what? I probably should show you the technique on a controller. And my perspective on it is that I think it's actually easier. It to some extent makes more sense.
Yeah,
because
you tried building a juggle on one though. That's the
juggling is a totally different matter.
Talking about.
Juggling is no, you can't do that.
So the other side of the argument. So if we're going to talk about retaining the core element of DJing, which is, you know, 2 turntables and an analog mixer, whilst I still feel that it's completely, I feel that it is definitely valid for that technology to exist. I feel like it's important for it to exist. I think it's a very imperative piece of technology to keep around, so that people, if they do come into the scene and wanting to kind of understand what the kind of background and lineage of turntablism and where it all comes from, I think it's important to keep it around. The other side of the argument where people come up to me and go, like, I'll be doing a set on like an S11 with a pair of Rain 12s, I'll be using phase. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've had people come up to me and go, "Oh, wicked, mate! It's so good to see someone spinning on vinyl." You kind of just cringe.
Thanks, man.
You kind of like cringe, and you kind of like your soul just dies inside because you're like, you kind of, the geek in me wants to go, "It's not really."
Oh, I get it all the time. I get people going, right, what's the best stylus to use for a control vinyl? Huh? What sounds the best on a control vinyl? No, it's your CPU, mate. It makes zero difference.
I mean, if you really wanted to split hairs, I mean, like, the better the stylus, the better the signal being transferred from the vinyl to the sound card.
You're going to clean the sound with a better needle. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I used my M447 Shores I drove them into the fucking ground. I think my final pair of Shure M447 Shores, I think, died in 2018, and I sent a message for a mate saying, I feel like I'm holding a relic.
You are holding a relic.
Because it was like, it was just in the kind of the wake of when Shure had discontinued making it, and dude, I was so gutted when they did that. But anyway, I'm kind of deviating to the argument of saying, oh, there's too much going on with the S11. You're kind of removing yourself from the core elements of what makes it all about being a DJ. It's kind of like saying to someone, I need you to put this document together, and by the way, you have to use a typewriter.
Exactly.
And say, like, can you send an email to this person? Right. By the way, can you type it up, please?
I've got a counter for this.
Okay,
right?
He's been thinking about this.
Okay.
If you using that typewriter, right, was a show, and you had a crowd of people coming in to watch your finger strokes and see them hammers hit the paper and feel the rhythm of then I agree with you. Yeah. No, I don't agree with you. No, fuck, this is my point against it. Right? There's people coming to watch the typewriter.
Yeah.
If you do it on Excel on a computer, nobody can see what's happening. It's quiet. But there's no show.
Of course, but are they wanting to see the delivery of the document quicker?
I think
we're pushing the envelope for this one.
Because I think the whole point of using a typewriter is you get the document typed and sent to someone, per se, if the document's been sent.
Yeah.
Could be through a book, who we don't know.
My basic point is, where's the panache? Where's the shoulder? You can't see anything going on there. It's all in a box with magic and zeros and ones.
I mean...
What is this voice?
I don't know. This is what happens to me after 6. That's why I don't come out.
Suddenly I'm talking from a Don from New York.
Guilty. I gave him a coffee when he got here.
It's showtime. It's the jazz hands.
Yes.
There's the link in my brain. Forgive me.
That's all right. That's all cool. I am just more. I'm a technology enthusiast.
Yeah, exactly.
I think if the things that you're able to do, the technology now, I think it's important to make use of it, but not rely on it.
100%.
And I
100%.
really am thankful for my background with just it being basically 2 turntables and a mixer.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I was brought up in that time, because it made me kind of appreciate
Yeah,
the lineage of the people that came before me and the things they had to go through to like get to where things are here now. Because I don't think we would be in a position now with this technology if it wasn't for the DJs that like came before us. Like, and if I could pick a name, I'm just gonna say, like for example, we all know the Controller One, the Vestax Controller One.
Yeah.
If you look at
Woody,
what Woody was doing in the early 2000s, that turntable is like a perfect blend of analog and digital technology in one. Yeah, for the time that it came out, it was a bit too ahead of the curve for the scene, and people might have fallen off a bit. And it's now just gained, well, ever since I've been in the scene anyway, which has been for like the last 12 years.
Well, people have been harvesting it.
Yeah.
You know, Reloop harvested it with the old. They
did a tiny bit, didn't they?
Because it was the MIDI into the Vestax was where that came from. And that changes the motor speed to give you, you know, different scales and stuff.
I remember looking at that and just thinking, that's like, I just want to play music. I was like, but then again, that was just me. But then when I saw what Woody was able to do on it, that really made me go, oh, that's really cool. This is the thing. That's really sick.
I think you hit something quite nicely there, which is like, because you and I, like, and most DJs, I suppose, our age, will have grown up, you know, on vinyl in some way. You see the technology as an opportunity, you know, like it's got lots of creative options. Whereas, you know, you didn't necessarily have those before. Whereas I think if you come to it new now, it's just like, it's a bit too easy to just do everything too easily. Do you know what I mean? And you lose some of the
I kind of agree.
Skill and the salt that sits behind it.
There is an argument of the further the technology progresses, the easier it can become. But there's a fine dance.
Human that's involved.
I feel that like there's a fine dance.
Well,
between...
then humans just up the level though. That's the thing, isn't it? You make the basics easier, and then people do more complicated, more clever stuff, and then it evolves and it continues to grow.
There's that fine, exactly. I think there's that fine kind of like delicate line that's walked between the increasing of technology making it easier versus making it accessible.
Yeah.
And I think we're all, as DJs and turntablists alike, we're all for like bringing more people into the scene and making it flourish and seeing it flourish, and also bringing them in on technology that would help them. But at the same time, there is that in your gut, there is that pullback sometimes of like, oh, you need to learn it on this first before you do it on
rubbish.
that. I know, you know what? Sometimes I've heard, but that's just like something I've heard people say.
A lot. Yeah.
And I've just like, I kind of go, well, it's all about knowing what do they have access to first? Is it a controller that they have access to? Let them mix on that first. Let them get to know whether this is something that they want to pursue.
I was talking to JFB about this, and I was saying to him, like, you know, what do you think's killed turntablism? And he said it's the hardware providers. He said there is not a good entry level, and the Hercules thing's come out since, but still that's 600 quid. There isn't really an entry level thing that has moving platters that gives you that thing to scratch on. Now the thing is you can scratch on, you know, controllers that are as cheap as 80 quid. But I do think he's right, which is like because that's just not something you see people doing.
I struggle with that because
they don't think to do it. If you
look at the cost of turntables back in the 90s versus weekly wage, and I argue about this all the time with people, right? A 1210 was about a month's wage back in the 90s. Right? And £600 is not a month's wage now. So I really struggle with the affordability thing. I also struggle with that.
That's interesting.
Because if you look at how much it costs to make something with moving platters...
Yeah, then, plus how much vinyl would have cost you back in the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you need to factor in that you have to be really motherfucking obsessed to get to the level where you need that. And when you're that obsessed, £600 is nothing.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean now. I
Yeah.
do know what you mean. You know.
Anyway,
I think it's that it's kind of like almost the commitment factor that's brought into the fold.
well, it becomes less commitment, doesn't it? When you're obsessed and you need to get better, it's like, oh God, I need like a grand.
Yeah,
I need a grand.
I need
If
to
I
get the
haven't got a
right
grand,
kit.
if I can't get a grand, then I can't get what I need, and I can't turn up to the scratch calf second Wednesday of every month.
So
It's a light bit of plugging. It's all right.
So I got a question for you, man.
Yeah, of course, man.
And my questions always get blocked. So shut
I'm not
up.
blocking. I'm not gonna. You blocked yourself on that
I
one.
did, yeah. That was a self block. I got a question for you then, mate. Because
Sure, man.
you know, what got you into it? Like, you know, you come quite far, right? So what was the beginnings? What were the humble beginnings of
So
Revrt?
the humble beginnings of me were, I was 14 years old, and I had a group of cousins that lived down in Devon, and when I was around about, I'd say roughly about 11 years old, my uncle, shout out Tudor, my uncle was, you know, we're talking like early to mid 90s. He was the only family member that I, on my maternal side at least, that was playing out reggae and dub and jungle and drum and bass. And bearing in mind, this was like when drum and bass and jungle were like at their premier height. It was like a new form of music, and my mum wasn't playing that at her house. She was playing like a lot of soul and kind of like Motown jams.
Doesn't sound bad.
No, it doesn't sound bad, and I still.
It's a good education in music.
Yeah, man, I'm still appreciative that she was playing that music around me. But my uncle was like, it was hip hop, drum and bass, and jungle.
Nice.
And it was the first time I, to my memory anyway, my mum might kill me for this, but I don't remember her playing any records in the house. It was all CD. So my uncle had like a record player that was a like a hi-fi system in the living room, and there'd be a record like spinning. First hip hop record comes to memory that I remember hearing, that since then I've further down the line as I got older I worked out it was EPMD.
Right. Yeah.
So my uncle would have been in his early to mid 40s, and he was playing EPMD, Strictly Business, but it was Bounce to the Ounce. It was
Such a
you
good
got to chill. So it's something from Zap. So that would be on loop like all the time while my aunt would be cooking in the kitchen, and he'd be playing EPMD in the living room.
Boom.
So anyway, fast forward to when I'm 14, my cousins, namely my cousin James, he had a pair of turntables, and his room was in a detached barn that was in the backyard of my uncle and aunt's house. So they had a farmhouse that went round in like an L shape,
Nice.
with a courtyard at the back, and in the courtyard was an old barn house that they got converted into. My uncle used to be a chippy, and his workshop was downstairs, and above him was James's bedroom. So he had this enormous barn-sized bedroom.
Wow.
And as soon as you walked in there, you had that, you know, the V-shaped ceiling with a skylight, and there was these two rotating things that were in the corner that my cousins were attempting to manipulate scratching on. That was my first time I'd ever seen it done, and I had no idea how it was done. So I was 14, and I remember watching a group, like two of them, one turntable each, and they're trying to like emulate these cuts. And I remember going, "Oh, this is so cool! It's so cool!" And my cousin Dylan, he gave me a cassette copy of Mixmaster Mike's anti-theft device. That was the first time I'd ever heard a Turntablism mixtape, and from then on it was just, I really want to get good at this, but there was no way that my mum was going to drop a pair of Technics in like late 90s, early 2000s. That would have been like best part of nearly $1,000.
They were about 450, 500 quid each plus the mixer.
Exactly.
And in the 90s, what was the average wage there?
That's a lot of money.
I mean, that was at least a
19 grand back then, maybe?
Yeah.
My mum was she was a single parent.
Month's wage.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
my mum was a single parent. She was raising not just me, but my brother and my sister.
Yeah.
So there was no
chance.
No chance. But
Yeah, you
there
can't
was
eat your
one
turntable.
No, exactly. And so fast forward to when I was 17, my cousin was Theo. Shout out to Theo. He was studying up in London at the Royal College of Art, and with that, he called up my mum and just went, "Have you got a place for me to stay? And or do you know anyone that could put me up?" And my mum just went, "Yeah, you can stay in Liam's room if you want." So my mum just basically just commandeered any kind of like, "Oh, by the way, you don't mind Theo just like." Because I had one of those beds that was a single bed, but underneath it had a pull out.
Yeah.
That you can make it into a double, where you put the legs out, but we just pulled it out. So my cousin, for the best part of like 4 months, like just basically was my roommate for when I was like 17. But with that, he brought his turntables.
There we go.
And he brought his mixer with him, and he had all of his D&B like vinyl, and that was when he properly showed me like how to count beats, how to release a record, how to count it in,
How to do the job,
how to use the EQ, how to use all of this. And I was just from that point, I was just hooked. Like I absolutely loved doing this. But then unfortunately 4 months later, he completed his uni course, and he got his degree, his master's degree, and he moved out, and with that went the turntables and the mixer and the vinyl. Fast forward, I'm 20, 21, and I'm just gonna put my hands in the air and say, I'm really sorry, everyone. I'm just gonna have to admit it. I was one of those guys that was DJing off just the laptop with.
No, but that's fine.
With like,
That's
but no,
fine.
it was what was it with? It was
confessions, man.
yeah,
Confessions.
no. What was the software? It was virtual DJ.
Yeah.
So I was doing that. I was even doing that. There was some times where I was like, in my early 20s when I was at uni, I was going to a lot of metal nights. And I got quite buddy with.
Do you know what's good about this, though? Do you know what's good about this?
What?
It makes you focus on tune selection.
Oh, dude,
Right,
massively.
you've got nothing else, right, in
Yeah.
that scenario.
You know, exactly.
Right, so it just becomes all about raw tune selection. What's going to go from one to the next? Like, what's going to work? How this, and I think that is a skill you can miss today.
Yeah, very much.
Very easily.
Very, very much. You've just reminded me of something. 2009, Theo, who taught me how to mix, his wedding. Right, he had originally asked. I'm sorry, I'm gonna call him out. Tommy, I love you, mate. Tommy was supposed to be DJing at my cousin's wedding. He was really pissed. He was really drunk and kind of like wasn't really in control of the situation of playing tunes. And my laptop just happened to be, because I was staying at my cousin's house. It just happened to be in my car.
So it was a DJ mutiny. You threw him overboard.
Hey, I'm throwing Tommy under the bus, but you know what? Tommy is a really successful photographer. He's the main photographer for Idols. So he's doing really well. He's doing really, really well.
And you were sat there with him, just sneaking extra vodka.
Dude,
So his pints. Going, I've got my laptop in the car.
do you know what?
If I could just get this
it's funny you
motherfucker
mentioned.
pissed enough.
Do you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because my cousin's wife, she's Jamaican British,
Yeah.
and have you ever had a can of ting before?
Yeah,
right.
man.
It was the main drink of the wedding was rum and ting, right?
ting,
And
yes.
I was 23 at the time, and I got the mixtures completely wrong. I got
yeah,
like,
of course he did.
and
Yeah,
I got
of course he did.
Ben, like, shout out to Ben, love you, Ben. She came up to me and she was just like, mate, you like all my entire family is pissed. Well, how much were you giving? She was like, how much were you giving them? I think she claims that I demonstrated how much I was giving. She's like, right, you've just got the measurements completely wrong, and not my whole family is.
He knew
completely
exactly what he was doing. He was there with Tom like this, going, oh, why don't you have another one, Shane?
Yeah. So anyway,
Glass behind the
so
bar.
what happened was Tommy was really drunk, and I said to Theo, I've got my laptop in the car. If you're cool with me doing this, I'll run and take over. And within, it's all about selection. Within the first four tunes, had everyone in, everyone was on the dance floor. Theo ran up to me and kissed me on the forehead. Like, so thank you so much for saving this. And like, that was in 2009. I then left uni, went traveling, came back, moved to, finished doing a world of traveling on my own, moved back to the UK. Didn't want to settle down in the leafy town that I'm from called Reigate, which is in Surrey. I just wanted to move to Bristol because that's where my cousins were.
Yeah.
Skateboarding was really good. The graffiti scene's really cool. The music scene's amazing. And I just decided, I want to really go for it now. I want to actually like get a pair of turntables and learn to scratch properly. And that was pretty much it. I bought my first pair of S11 1210 Mark IIs in the end of 2012, and I've still got them. That's pretty much where it all kicked off from, dude.
Nice.
So I got a question for you.
Sure, man.
Dubstep or hip hop?
See, it depends what you mean by it depends completely on what your impression of what dubstep is.
Don't you do that one to me?
Because
half-time drum and bass. Come on.
No, all right, okay. Well, half-time drum.
Out of time drum and bass.
I did say. Do you know what's funny? You mentioned. I did say to a friend once, like, isn't just foghorn drum and bass just dubstep but really fast?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Sounds like a chair being moved across the
So,
there was a meme.
what is it going to be?
Dubstep
or hip hop?
I think. Well, my love for both of those genres, I can't answer that question.
You have to answer it. You have to
can't.
choose one. You have to choose one. You have to choose one.
If we're gonna go with like, I'm just gonna say because of my background, I'm just gonna say hip hop.
Okay. Now this sounds like we're gonna see what DJ Random's got to say.
Oh man! Oh god!
You might not pick up. We're a quarter of an hour late.
Wow. Okay, I wasn't expecting this.
It happens every time.
Okay.
What?
Right. Revrt says he prefers hip hop to dubstep.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call. Yeah, you can't really fuck with that. See, I would rather go into a busy shopping centre on a Saturday afternoon, pull my pants down, do a handstand, and then take a massive shit in my mouth. And listen to dubstep.
And he's hung up.
Wow.
I'm not sure we'll have a slot on BBC One just yet.
Wow. Good grief.
Now, aren't you? I was hoping you were going to say dubstep because he would have ripped you another one.
Oh man.
I told him last month, or whenever we put him out. I told Random that Jimmy Needles prefers the Autophone Qbert to the M447. He was not very happy.
That's I
Neither
think
was Jimmy.
I've got no kind of like commitment to any kind of cartridge really. I mean, whatever works really.
Let's talk a little bit about
That was, can
the
I just
future.
say, that was by far one of the most random things, like no pun intended, random things I've ever heard.
So So we are now 2 weeks into recording these podcasts. We put out the DJ Random one. We record Jimmy Needles, and Revrt is in next. So nobody has any idea yet that the reoccurring DJ Random, what does he think about this is happening?
Oh, God.
So basically everybody's getting stitched.
Okay. It wasn't a stitch. I was just like, I just wasn't. I mean, that was so poetic what he said.
He's like the best. He's literally the best thing ever.
Yeah, it's like what I think for the edit, I think you should just bleep out everything.
Oh, we don't edit. We do not edit.
Just so
this.
that just because I often find a trail of beeps more hilarious than the delivery.
The thing is, if we started beeping, then the whole DJ Random podcast would just be one big beep.
Do you know what? I was like in the shower like earlier, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder how long the edit or the YouTube video of that episode would be if I just made it all the F-bombs the whole way through. And
15 minutes.
Can you?
Yeah,
please
it
do
probably
that?
would.
Can you please do that?
I reckon
That would be the
AI
best
could
thing
do that
ever.
for us.
Get AI to do it.
So anyway, to ask ChatGPT to edit for me every single F-bomb that Random did on the first episode. Mate.
So look,
Love you, Random.
He's amazing, isn't he?
Yeah.
So absolutely amazing.
We've heard about your past, right?
Yeah.
We know that fairly recently, you came, you were vice champion of the DMCs. I know you get about a bit. You've done some stuff in Paris. You've done a few competitions over the time. What's coming next for Revrt? What's next for you, mate?
Well, I want to go for. I'm definitely wanting to go for the DMCs 2025 this year, like 100%.
Yes.
100%.
We can't wait to see you. in it, man.
I think you're going to win it this year.
I think it's yours this
I
one.
think
Thanks,
you're
man.
going to win it. I think you are.
Thanks, man. I'm one of those people that's like,
Have you started practicing?
no, but I've started coming up with ideas.
But I know,
So-
so just to be clear again, these two will most likely be competitors. They both come to the Scratch Calf, and you should have seen it the week before the DMCs when you were all down there.
It was lovely. You make it sound like we were going to punch each other.
You all had the fakest smiles.
He loves a bit of beef.
You were all being like, "Oh, well, what are you doing?" Do you know what I mean? I was literally, they're all friends, and like we've already come.
Mate, we're not exactly. Well, it's not like we're rocking up and going, yeah, I'm just gonna have it for breakfast and absolutely kill it. I'm gonna absolutely send it. Like, I mean, literally, just like it's not. I don't have. What's the irony of me being in these competitions is I don't have any kind of competitive bone in my body. I just want to better myself.
Okay.
That's literally the reason why I do these competitions. Winning it would be wicked. But I find that every single time I do a competition, I'm so much better than what I was if I hadn't done it, because you're so committed to everything about this routine that what I find is once the competition side is out of the way, once the routine is done, I find that when I'm wanting to implement any of the tricks that I put into that routine, it's literally it's just muscle memory. You don't even think about it. I found that outside of the competition, when I was getting booked to do shows, or if I was doing like underground music shows, there would be some times when I would like gently, like obviously you can't go full ham in front of like a crowd that have like come to hear a certain sonic of a sound. You just got to like delicately kind of like, pepper it in.
Yeah.
I just found that doing those kinds of tricks were just like, because you've been doing them for like, in the run up to a competition, you've been doing them so much.
Yeah.
When you really like, kind of like, when you're outside the realm of a competitive environment, those techniques and tricks that you've practiced,
They just come easy.
It's just easy. Like
It's like when marathon runners, they run up a mountain where there's no air. Right, that's how they practice.
That's probably
they
the
run
worst
around. They
analogy
run
I've
around
ever
like that,
heard.
and then when they come back down to do the marathon, they're like, "Well, this is easy. I got lungs full of oxygen."
is that genuine?
Yeah, genuinely true, mate. Yeah. So it's the same concept. It's like a competition is stressful, right? I mean, because you want to do your best performance. You've got one chance to do it. There are literally hundreds of times you do this routine, and then one of those times is utter competition.
No, wait there. Sorry,
Right?
sorry. No. Isn't that blood doping? What you just explained?
No, it's not.
Yeah, because when you go up high, you don't get as much oxygen. So when they come back down for the competition, their body's
Yeah.
producing more white blood cells to carry more oxygen. So that's blood doping.
Well, whatever it is, it's a way of training, right?
I'm so pedantic after 7.
Anyway, random rewind.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is like I found, right, coming out of the competition was every gig after that, I was just not afraid to do something brave because it just wasn't brave anymore. Because it wasn't like there's a lot at stake here. And I think so. I did the first competition I did was Beat Checkers. It was like a metaverse competition. It was like open format basically, and I thought I'd win it, right, and I came second in the end. And the subsequent year, I came first. I won it the next year, and I always reflect on this, right, because what I found was that actually the time I came second was the one I learnt the most. Because I had someone to look at and go, what did they do differently? Well, they addressed the community. They Right. So in my next one, I'm going to build that. Right. Also, I brought in additional things and tried to up my game. And it was in the thinking about upping my game that I came up with these new ideas and new concepts and stuff like that. And then when I won it, I sat there and I thought, right, what do I do now?
Yeah.
and it is a bit like that, I think. I think the value is in the competing, not in the winning. The winning is amazing. Now, I haven't won one yet, so I can't turn around and say, for sure. But it does feel like it's one of those things where actually you kind of get a lot more out of it just from taking part.
So I got a question for you both then, because I don't compete for anything. I've never competed, never really entered a competition, and it's just so far away from my mindset to go, right, I want to go in and see if I'm better than these people on a live thing. So I'm going to ask you both this, starting with the guest, obviously, because it's polite. Why did you enter a competition? What was that thought suddenly just going, I'm gonna compete? What was it?
For Red Bull or for the DMC?
Whatever, any competition. What made you? Because there's a switch, isn't there?
So, when I was really getting into turntablism, it was just pummeled into me by. I mean, my cousins, for example, when the people who in my on my side of my family, on my maternal side of the family, who had access to turntables and were aware of like turntablism, their view of the kind of the Mount Olympus of turntablism is like earning a DMC title.
Yeah,
so,
which I think it pretty much still is.
Yeah, it is, and it is. It very much is. But like they, so they already had that. Like 2 or 3 of my cousins, like they're all brothers, they all knew that was a thing. Like that's the holy grail of turntablism awards and competition accolades, that kind of thing. And I remember when I really started getting into turntablism, when I remember attempting to try and I remember doing a submission to DMCs in like 2013, and that video got deleted so quickly. And I remember some parts of the routine as well, and I look back at it and I go, I don't know what I was thinking that I could enter a DMC battle with the years worth of turntablism under my belt. I just look at it and I'm just like, I'm so happy I didn't I learn
a lot though there.
You learn a lot. You become aware of your skill capability at the time, and you also are more aware of like the wider range of competition that is around you and the skill level that's around you. And what it does, it doesn't for me anyway, it shouldn't intimidate you. It should inspire you to go, okay, how's that guy doing that sound? And I haven't met anyone in the turntablism scene that's like some sort of like gatekeeper. Like everyone is because everyone in the turntablism community is all about like, we're building a like quote unquote a community of people. We're about bringing people into the scene. We're not about like pushing, like keeping people out. So I would over time I got to know, like, I'm just going to name drop a few guys here. I hope they don't mind. Shout out to Pete and Cymatic. Those guys were. I hold Cy and Pete, Table Turnsmore. I hold those guys up in such high regard. If it wasn't for, I'd say Pete was the kind of like first like scratch DJ I kind of befriended when I moved to Bristol. He kind of like showed me the ins and outs of how to execute techniques in a certain way. He introduced me.
He's good at teaching.
He's really good at teaching. Pete is really good. Again, shout out to Pete. He showed me how to do 1-click flares. He showed me how to do 2-click flares. And there's still. I mean, I should probably learn a few new scratches. But 1-click flare and 2-click flares are like my favourite cuts to do. They really, really are. They just sound sonically really fun
as well.
There was one thing I wanted to point out on this podcast is like when I was trying to learn one-click or 2-click flares, I don't have like, I see a lot of people just doing it from one finger, like doing it from the wrist. I don't have the strength in my wrist to I can't do that. And one of the things you're taught, because I did my drumming grades when I was about 11 till I was 14, and the thing that we're taught when we're wanting to go from one tempo to another, like to increase your speed, you move from the shoulder to the elbow to the wrist and then to the fingers. So it's like ba 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 ba, and then you use the rebound of the skin from the snare to like go faster, and it goes down to your fingers. So rather than relying on my wrist to be able to execute the 2-click flare, I decided to adopt the twiddle, so I'm able to get more speed from my fingers.
I'm a serial twiddler too, mate.
Wow.
Can I also point out, I don't know where this has come from, this whole kind of stigma attached to the twiddle.
Oh yeah, no, this is it's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. It's a weird thing, really, because it's a great technique, and actually, if you use the twiddle, because it basically means that you follow the same rhythm as the chirp and the 1-click flare, you move between them like super easy. So you can end up doing these really nice, almost snare roll, sort of things to it without having to do this whole different motion with your hands.
Yeah.
You know, I think they're brilliant.
Don't get me wrong. Like, if you're able to do a 2-click flare from your wrist, it looks cool.
It looks cool.
But
agree.
I can't. I don't have the wrist speed to do that.
So let's get this clear. So are you talking about pincering the crossfit? I'm going to describe it.
I'll do it from here, like, so people can see it. Like, if you mind your head, like I'm talking about, like being able to.
So you're talking about tapping with one finger,
and the thumb.
Because I've seen people do a 2-click from literally pincering it and just literally doing.
No. I'm talking about twiddling.
Close tap open.
Everyone knows.
Close tap open,
To the people not knowing who are listening to this podcast that don't know what a twiddle is. A twiddle is literally a repetitive motion between the thumb, the middle finger, and the index finger, and you're going back and forth between the two of them rather than having to use your wrist. So it's almost like doing a snare roll from your fingers instead of using your elbows and your wrists. Okay. It just condenses the speed to make it a lot quicker. And it's I don't know. Again, like, I don't know where the stigma comes from. There's that argument, making it easy or something. I don't know what it comes from.
There is a thing about the twiddle that I think is worth noting, which is if you learn the 2-click flare. If you learn it the traditional way, the close, tap, open, fader move, right? You then can apply that move to the boomerang, to 4-note variations like swing flares, slow autobahns, the autobahn, boom flares, like all of these use that same motion. With the twiddle, you can't do that, because the twiddle relies on it being open from the beginning and following that very specific pattern. It's really difficult to do things like delayed twiddles and stuff like that. It doesn't really work properly. And so I do think there's a thing that people who learn to twiddle get into a bit of a rut, because what they do is they go, oh, I can't use my typical twiddle technique to learn these other techniques, so I won't bother. And so they stay at the kind of either twiddling 2-click or twiddling 3-click, and they don't go any further. But as long as you break that barrier, I just don't see any issue with it. I think it's great for using with transforms as well.
Yeah, the same thing. I don't think that I don't understand where it comes from. And it was first kind of like point out. I went down to the Scratch Barbecue in Brighton back in like 2018, and I remember someone don't ask me who it was. I remember hearing someone kind of point out, he's doing twiddles, it's kind of cheating. And I was like, mate, that is so petty. That's one of the most petty things. Like, it sounds sick. Yeah. Isn't that kind of like
Isn't that the point?
You're supposed to execute the technique and it's supposed to sonically sound.
Well, what's highlighted this to me from our first podcast with Random is he, like one of the original boys who judged at the DMC, obviously, if you missed that episode, but he says, right, you do it your own way, you make your own way your way, and then you innovate and you have your own thing. So I think people getting stuck on doing techniques a certain way, I think it isn't. It's probably somebody that spent so long attempting to get it right that they feel like they're being cheated of all of their effort when somebody comes along and twiddles it.
Possibly. I mean, I don't know. That's a fair point, to be fair. Maybe the person just like someone took the jam out of his donut that day.
I mean,
and just said like, I spent 23 years trying to do a 2-click flow with my wrists, and then someone came along
Come
and
and bloody twiddle, took my glory away. But you know, he just took our jobs.
But that's how but that's how ridiculous it sounds.
But you know,
and you look at me when I 2018, I was like 6 years into my turntablism career, and like to hear someone like an elder say to me, "Oh, that's cheating," it's like, sorry, like what? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, okay, fine. I wasn't in the scene for as long as this guy had been, but I was like, dude, like, surely not.
We have to watch out for this stuff in the scene, right? Because
we do.
Because the thing is, you know, like Ollie and I, like the Scratch Cafe is about creating a community, and actually, when you sit and you're creating a space for community to come together, you do realise and you do see some of the things that are challenging about community.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So you do see people who go in and they make judgments about people on the basis of stuff that's seemingly irrelevant. You do have people who try to create exclusion in the midst of these things, and I think that the trouble with like people who pass judgment in that way is that they often then close off new people to that environment.
They do.
You know, and I'll be honest, like I was really intimidated by Scratch DJs for years. And the reason was because I got into DJing. It was actually through the Freestylers, and I was listening to that, and I started on breaks. But I was a guitarist at the time. I played blues and stuff, and so it was a bit of a weird mix of the two. And then the two sort of blended, and I got into hip hop because obviously all the sampling and all that sort of stuff. I started to go, oh yeah, nice. But it was like breaks, drum and bass, and then into hip hop for me. And so I got into scratching, and I was one of those people that could look good to someone who didn't know what they were doing quite quickly, right? So I got kind of like branded talented. And the problem with being branded talented is that what happens is you internalize that and then you act to defend it subconsciously. So what ends up happening is you don't progress because you don't try new things, because to try new things would make you look like you weren't talented, and you want to maintain that. So it's a well-known bit of psychology. It's by a lady called Carol Dweck. It's called growth mindset. Is basically you've got growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset, people think talent is this thing that you either have it or you don't, and if you don't, well, just give up kind of thing. And growth is like, well, actually, I could just grow. It's all about what time and energy I put in. And they found this. They found that people who are labelled talented will protect that, so they won't take on more challenging things. And I think I was that person, and it killed off my DJing for nearly a decade. I kind of saw people overtake me, got a bit fed up with it, got a bit upset, kind of stopped, moved. My life didn't really fit in with DJing for a little while, and so I stopped. And I just think to myself, like, when I got back into it, I was quite intimidated by these people who'd managed to keep the stuff going and elevate themselves to this incredible level. And I think to myself, like, I was just so passionate about it, it wasn't going to stop me. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I'm just going to get involved here. I went down to the Turntablist lounge, for example, didn't know anybody there, and I was like, right, I'm going to get in here and I'm just going to be a part of it. And I was like, got there and was like, these people are fucking unreal. Dude. And I sat there and I thought, oh my God, what have I done? Right. But it was great because I got in, and then eventually somebody sort of puts you under their wing a little bit, says, hey, you know, but you need these people in the community. You need people who are going, I see you're new round here. You know, let me kind of warm you in. Let me introduce you to people.
Who is that?
You know, oh God. What's his name? JTL or JLT? He's an absolute legend.
I was going to say, because if it was the Turntablist lounge, I was wondering whether it was Richie.
Oh well, Richie was really welcoming. He wouldn't let me leave. He was really great. But they're all lovely. All the guys that go down there, they're all really lovely. And that was the thing that made that really nice, because I was there and I was going, wow, the skill level here is something I've never seen. I mean, on video, like I'd never seen, even in like on videos online, I'd just never seen people this dope. And then they were also really nice. And it does make such a difference if people somewhat gatekeep, or they feel like they have this standing in a community where they feel like they have to
could be this
interfere with other people.
Or there could be this presumption that they just think that they are going to be gatekeeping about it and they're not going to want to share this knowledge. But what you find is, like, I mean, the Scratch Cafe is like a perfect example of like a gathering of like-minded individuals that are there to kind of bring more people into the fold.
We do not let gatekeeper happen. We do not like gatekeeping happening there. Literally. No. I mean, I've got a theory on gatekeepers, and it helps me sort of empathise with them, But people that feel like they need to ruin somebody's life by gatekeeping something are normally going back to a really bad life. They got a rubbish job, they got a rubbish wife, ugly children. No, I'm not saying that. But do you know what I mean? If we're being serious about this, for you to go to a really happy environment where people are learning and people are giving, and for you to gatekeep something or go, that's not a real 2-click, you're using a twiddle, there's got to be something bad in your life. And it kind of makes me feel like, shit, just let him have it. Let him have that 2-click flair. Let him have the twiddle thing. It's all he's got. That is it. He's holding on to it, and it's going to ruin his life if you take it away from him. And it's like, I think definitely how we are at the Scratch Cafe. Is we don't, if there is gatekeeper people in there, if there are people being like that, we do not put any attention off them. All we care about is the new guys. And when there's a new guy, if I see a new guy, they're like, I'm a bit scared to get up. It's like, well, there's DMC champions here, there's a teacher, and I normally get Dan, and I go, Dan, stand next to this guy and show him some bits.
If I was a newcomer to the Scratch Cafe and you turned around to me and goes, oh, by the way, that's the DMC cafe, I would, I would just literally, dude, I would absolutely... You think I'm getting up on the decks in front of that guy?
Well, that's the thing.
But that's intimidating. I would just say, I think the best thing is literally just let them come up and use the turntables. I think, dude,
Well, normally they don't. Normally they don't, and they see the adverts and they come up and chat to one of us. And it's like,
but that's wicked.
I'm not getting up there.
I think that's wicked though, because I think out of all, I've gone to. Lost count of how many Scratch Cafes.
You're one of the originals.
You're a resident of ours, mate. Really,
I just remember every single one, almost pretty much every single Scratch Cafe I've gone to. There's always a new face having a go.
Yeah. It's so good,
and it's wicked. It's so good. I mean, they're not good. There's not going to be any technique, but they're having a go, and it's their first time doing it.
Do you know what I love?
Dude, I had literally when I found a video of one of my first kind of like I guess you could kind of categorize it as like a selfie video of me cutting, and I looked at it and I it's on Facebook. Unfortunately, my Facebook account got hacked over a year ago, so I haven't been. I gave up. Trying a amount of times I've messaged Facebook like, look, this is me, this is the accusation, this is what happened with it. Some guy hacked it and was like posting all this stuff, and I'm like, that isn't me. I tried challenging it. In the end, I was like, oh, do you know what? I can't be asked anymore. So the video's up there somewhere, but it was like, I remember looking at that video from 2012, and I looked at it and I went, oh God, like. I can't listen to any of these cuts.
Do you know what? I did the opposite. So it was about 3 years ago.
So by the way, I'm not throwing any shade at anyone who's coming into the Scratch Cafe and having a go. Like, it's completely normal and fine for like, if you've got some technique, if you've got an idea or you've got a sense of rhythm, bring it. Like, it's wicked.
And even if you don't,
it doesn't matter because the whole point of us being there is there to like, if you are interested in wanting to learn.
It's osmosis too, though. It's like you come, so what? You're not great at scratching. Who cares? You turn up, you listen, and you see people, and you see them doing stuff, and it goes in.
Well, every new person that goes there, right, they get in contact with us, and they're like, oh my God, I got so much better. Oh my God, I've actually got my turntables out. Oh my God, like the improvement we've had in the year you've been doing it, myself included. And what I think everybody there just...
Paul is the one he blows my mind.
Yeah.
His cutting is amazing.
Yeah. Who's that?
Paul Nightingale, I think his name.
He literally like he did it years ago, but then just started again, and then he's gone on Dan's course, and he's just like,
and he's
wicked, man.
He's got really good, and you know what? It's purely, it's a mixture of putting the time in and being a part of the community, and you learn so quickly that way. I mean, it's a natural thing for human beings, right? Like we learn vicariously. That's like one of the ways in which we've managed to like go from living in a cave to living in like entire, metropolitan, and it's just, it's one of those things. But yeah, man.
I've just remembered something. I didn't actually answer your question that you gave me about what was it that made me go into the...
because Dan still needs to answer his as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I only just remember... I don't know why. My brain does this sometimes where I get asked something and it will just like...
You went into a really good story. I wasn't going to steer you away from it.
It just meandered into something else. Basically... what kind of brought me... So, that was it. I was talking about my first DMC submission and how awful it was. I then decided that, like, my skill level... Because I was trying my best best to keep up to date with like what the latest kind of skill level of DMC was. It was just it's a very natural thing for you to kind of to feel or look at that and go, oh dude, there's no point in me doing that. I'll get upset. I am not entering that competition. I'll just get my ass handed to me. I'm not on that level.
Yeah.
But then Red Bull came along and brought the Red Bull freestyle, and at the time, between like 2013 and 2019, 2012, 2019, I was more or less a kind of like what you would kind of categorize as what would be dubbed as an open format kind of DJ. And I looked at that competition and I was like, oh dude, that's my bread and butter. I'm well up for giving that a go, like well up for that. But at the time there was no UK representation for the competition. It was always in America, Canada, anywhere else but the UK.
Did you put on an accent?
Oh man.
Hey man.
Hey guys.
I'm Revrt.
I'm Revrt.
Hey guys.
With an R.
Hey guys. I'm looking to move out at some time. It's good to be. I want to move out of Europe at some point and move over to the stateside.
That's spelled RVR.
Yeah.
No, I can't even spell it.
Hey, sir.
You'd have to be deep. You'd have to be deep
Just
South
to say,
Texan.
it's emphasis on the second E. Okay. But anyway, yeah. So I looked at that competition and I was like, yeah, I really want to have a go at that. And they had like wild cards where like you could be from any country and you make a submission. And the first time I had a go at doing it, and I realized this was in 2016, and I remember when I did that routine, I was like, I was just kind of biting into the kind of style of how I was expecting the judges to, when you like you see all of these like Red Bull freestyle competition sets and you go, oh, that's the definitive kind of like template of what a freestyle set is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you adhere to that. There may be some tunes in there you don't like, but fuck it doesn't matter. Sorry for the F-bombs, everyone, but you just stick to it because this is what works. And you kind of go, after I remember posting it and I go, oh, that doesn't really represent me in the I didn't go through, and I'm kind of happy I didn't go through because I couldn't stand by that set with my chest and say that represents me. So I gave it like another year break, and then in 2018 I decided to give it a go again. And then this email just appeared in my inbox saying, yeah, you're a UK competitor. We're bringing the competition to the UK in September. You're a UK finalist for Red Bull Freestyle UK. And I just, that was my first ever DJ competition that I entered. And it was, I'm sorry to say this, out of the 5, I can only remember 2 of the other competitors, but mainly because they're DMC guys.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Mighty Atom and Matt Man. Mighty Atom won it. He was the 2018 UK Red Bull freestyle champ, and
Matt Man's got a championship under his belt, and he's got a couple, I think.
I think he has, yeah.
Yeah, for IDA maybe.
Yeah, I came second, came vice champ, and Matt Man came third. So it was 3.
Nice.
At the time, I wasn't a DMC competitor, but then looking back on it, now you have like essentially what you see as 3 DMC guys winning that. Then 2019 came around and I decided to do it again because I had a lot of fun doing it. I really enjoyed it. I had I built a community of friends from that competition. Like got to know Kenny, who used to own the competition. And I think the way I used to pitch it was, I think I'm the only DJ in that competition that had won the competition. Sorry, not won the competition. Had taken the vice championship twice in less than a year. Twice in just less than a year, because the competition was in just over a year. Sorry, the competition was in September 2018, and by October 2019, I was the vice champion again. So it was like, it was almost in around about a year's time.
Okay, so here's a sticky one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Did you come second in both of those?
Yes.
Because of your ability or your set?
I'm gonna kind of like self-criticize myself a tiny bit and say because of my skill set.
Okay.
I think.
What was missing?
Man, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying this, but not biting a trend.
Okay.
I think. Obviously, because I don't know who's going to be listening to this, I'm just going to say, D. James, you're a really good producer and good DJ, mate. I rate you hard. And don't get me wrong, this was all at least amongst all the immediate friends that were around me. You have to bear in mind the crowd that were at the 2019 Red Bull 3-star competition. You had Blakey, he was there. You had DJ Woody, he was there. John First was there. All my kind of like mentors were in this audience. I mean, it was a good, decent audience. It was in, of all places that it was in a Vodka Revs.
That's fitting for a Red Bull place.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like, my mate who lives in...
It's less Red Bull, more Jagerbomb.
Like, it was Static messaged me, and he was like... He lives in Manchester.
Is this for real?
He was like, really? Like, and it was in the basement of a Vodka Rev, so it was kind of like away from what you would kind of call your typical kind of punters.
That's good. Segregate the turntablists.
Yeah, you kind of exactly. Yeah,
always.
so you're keeping them away from like the punters that usually go to the Vodka Revs. Anyway, I remember. So D. James won the 2019 Red Bull 3-star competition, and. Yeah, I remember my confidence taking a dive that night. I was really, I felt like I was definitely gutted because I was like, I've definitely upped myself in terms of like my selection, my delivery, my stage performance, my technicality. And D. James was mainly playing a lot of like dancehall, Afrobeat, kind of stuff, and I think the one thing that like helped him win the competition, he had a load of dub plates and dub plate acapellas from like kind of raga like MCs, where they were like dissing all the other competitors, which fair play is like, you know, that's really cool.
That's part of it.
I was like,
move, yeah.
I was just like, there was a dub plate like dissing me, and I was just like, oh, that's sick. But yeah, like post competition 2019, I remember Bakey coming up to me because he could just see I was absolutely gutted. Like, you know, second time in the competition, getting into the UK final and coming second again. I remember Bakey coming up to me going, dude, please don't let this discourage you. Like, please don't. Like, I want to see you carry on competing. And it was hard for me to kind of go, yeah, sure. And like in the heat of the moment, because I was just so just gutted about it. But I had like people say to me that apparently the judges were, I'm just going to say it, but this is just based off information I know. Apparently, like in the green room, when the judges were making a decision, they were battling over me and D. James. They were basically pointing out all the pros and cons of our sets, like, Revrt did this, but he didn't do that. But D. James did this and he didn't do that. And apparently Kenny was like, guys, we need to give a decision. We have 3 minutes and we need to give a decision. Like, you need to make a decision right now.
What, D. James was in the corner
and
with
the
a bag full of
pendulum.
Mars bars. Oh God! But choose. Oh, not choosing me.
Yeah, but
Bag of malware.
but I've like me. But like, yeah, I just like, I kind of like, I know I know I know what judges made, whose decision came from which judge. I'm not going to name them because they know who they are and I know who they are, and we're good friends.
And I will find you.
No.
kill you.
No. They're good friends. Like, they
Believe
are.
me, Revert's got a very special set of skills.
No,
you should see him with a garrote.
No. They're very like. they're good mates. They are really, they are good friends. And like, if I saw them again, I'd be like really happy to see them.
Don't get many Mars bars there.
No. I mean, what was it with you and Mars bars?
Oh, I said D. James was bribing them with Mars bars in the corner.
Oh, right. Why Mars bars?
I don't know. It's a confectionery item. I just decided to.
No, it's actually our first brand deal.
All right.
So so Dan, what made you decide to compete?
Boredom. No, I think.
All right, is that it? Okay.
No, I'll be honest. So I for me, I've had a career outside of DJing, right? DJing for a period of time was my life when I was at university. But once I kind of left that and I started a separate career, and I just, like probably a lot of people who are listening to this, I wanted to make DJing more of my life. And I wanted to find a way that it could become more of my life. But part of that was sort of proving to myself that actually it wasn't just me thinking I'm good, or some people who, who are loved ones of mine saying, oh man, that's really cool. I kind of felt like I needed, if I was going to start thinking about how I really changed my life. Bear in mind, I provide for my family. I've got 2 young kids. We live in a house, right? That's got to be paid for, all this sort of stuff. If I'm going to start taking risks and start maneuvering my life and my career around, I need to make 100% sure that I'm doing that for all the right reasons. So for me, competing was a little bit about getting some external validation to verify whether it was worth me really taking steps forward to kind of make this my life. But I wasn't confident enough, and I wasn't competent enough at the time to enter into a DMC. And because I'd had this experience of being, seeing other people surpass me and kind of giving up for a while and then coming back into it, more equipped to understand how learning works and all this sort of stuff. But because I'd had that experience, I was just a little bit like, I'm very self-aware of how good I actually was versus wasn't, but I wanted to validate it. So I went for, it was opportunist. Someone reached out to me on Instagram or somewhere. It was either Instagram or Twitter. And was like, I'm running this competition. I've seen some of your videos. Would you come and be a competitor in this? And I was like, oh, I'd know it. It was in the metaverse. I had to figure out how Decentraland worked. Again, there's this whole community thing
all the
involved
stuff that
in that.
turns you on.
But there's loads of mucking around with technology and bitcoins and all this malarkey, or Ethereum really. But what was interesting about it was, there were some things in this that were that led us to the Scratch Cafe in many ways, because it's like an online community of people. They meet. I mean, it's quite serious, actually, the metaverse, because they get all this funding from the transactions that are done in it, and then, hundreds of thousands of dollars is in a pot somewhere that people then get given as projects to go and try and bring more people into the metaverse. But what was cool about that competition was it was pre-recorded. It was about doing 15-minute sets or half an hour sets. And it was totally no rules. So there's me doing my thing, right? Versus the guy who beat me, it was this guy, Steve Sy, in the first one. Steve was just a really good techno DJ from Greece. But he makes all his own tunes and remixes and stuff. And he was just really deep in the community. But it was really, it was this thing of and I got to second. And because I felt like I could win it, and I was like, I thought I probably would win it, but I always was a bit wary of the fact that I didn't really know anybody in this world yet. And I was still making these friends. And it was public votes, right? It wasn't judge voted, it was public votes, all done on the blockchain, hilariously. But it was because of that, then I was like, do you know what? I learned something here. One, I'm a decent DJ amongst total strangers here. There are people, these are people who are all over the world. None of them know me at all. And, I'm getting this validation of them voting for me, and I'm seeing these votes go up on this polling station and stuff in this virtual world. It's pretty strange. But, and I was like, but I think I could win this. And then I won that. And then, and that feeling of going from I learned so much from being second to, I've kind of won it now. What do I do? Then spurred me to go, DMC's is around the corner. I think I've got to go into this. And at the same time, the DMC entrance was a little bit about just like coming of age, I suppose. But it was also about like, I'm thinking now about my career in DJing, and I don't think my answer to DJing is going to be going and doing big gigs anywhere. I don't think that's who I am. It doesn't really fit with my family life. But teaching other people to scratch and beat juggle and be creative in their DJing is. And I felt like taking part in the DMC, having my brand associated with their brand, you would be a ultimately positive thing for driving that forward. So that's so two totally different like sides of the why you might go and compete coin. Right?
Well, do you want to hear this one then? The only reason I use my turntables is because it's one of the only 3 parts of my life where my brain shuts up and doesn't torment me.
Oh, you are not the only person to say that.
Literally, like when I get on those turntables, right, I'm pushing myself so far that it just shuts up. It's full concentration for however many minutes.
It's meditation, man.
It's literally meditation.
Simon says the same thing. Simon Rue, or Scratchmaster Slider, right? He says the same thing. He's like, it's the one moment of peace.
Yeah, literally.
That you get in your brain, you know.
That happens with me and skateboarding.
Really?
Yeah,
It does.
man.
It does, because skateboarding is like an outlet for me. Like, I've been skateboarding for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's my one time where I can just, everything else about my day just kind of like goes out, like disappears, it goes away, and I'm just there in the moment to like just have some fun. And the same thing happens with turntablism, with DJing. I'm literally just like, your whole world, like we all can just say this, like your whole world just goes like that, and you're just like, your brain is on like Saturn or whatever, and like far away. There's been moments where like my partner will be like asking me a question. I'll be in the middle of scratching or DJing or whatever. My partner will ask me a question, and I'll like, did you say something? Like,
yeah. What was that?
And it's not. I feel
again.
so rude sometimes. I'm like just not hearing her first time round, but she's a really supportive woman and understands that like sometimes if I'm like really in the middle of like honing in something or trying to get something dialed, she knows that like my response might
Your
always
response
be like
time will be slow.
like dial up in the late night, in the late notice. But there's another thing to add about with the competitions is that I'm gonna put it on record anyway, because I feel like everyone kind of like needs to hear it anyway. So my 2023 entry was a bit of an unorthodox entry into DMC, if I'm really honest with you, because
Which sorry, I'm zoned out then.
So basically in 2023 I competed.
2023.
I competed.
Was that the year that you were in it?
No,
I didn't.
2024.
That was
last
okay,
year.
yeah.
So this is nearly 2 years ago.
Sorry, I'm still recovering.
one before.
The stroke year is kind of like a
That's
vacuum
fine.
of.
That's okay, man.
Not the
That's
one
the year
you're
before.
Got
Year
you.
before.
That's
sorry.
okay.
Sorry, everybody.
That's okay.
I've got to catch up.
So August 2023, a associate of mine's was the events coordinator for DMC, and we all know that the rite of passage with DMC is you make a video submission.
Yeah.
It's looked at by the
It's
judges,
judged, and then they
they go, "Oh, these are the finalists." So 2023, that didn't happen really. What happened was I got a phone call from the events coordinator for DMC at the time, and they said, look, I think basically what he was trying to say to me was that at the time that DMC, they were trying to revamp the brand, because they were I think they were aware that the brand was very obviously very much associated with turntablism, but they were very aware that like
it was very US.
Obviously
Small in the UK.
Small in the UK, very much big in the US. I mean, there is that argument. The counter argument you can make to that is that almost every single world final for the DMC was always held in London.
Yeah.
But like with a few exceptions, obviously. But basically, I think they were trying to revamp the brand in some way and and bring in a new fold of like competitors. And so this guy basically called me up and said, do you want to compete? We're hosting it at Boomtown this year, which is a festival in near Winchester.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know how to reply, because I hadn't made Well, one, I hadn't made a video submission. Two, I felt like I was. I mean, I can't really think of any way of describing it other than it felt like I was jumping the queue in a way. So I felt really awkward about that.
And that went out really well for Phil and Holly or whoever it was who jumped for the Queen's death. What was that?
What? What's this joke? I don't get
Sorry,
that.
I've gone.
What's this?
I was right. I was just like,
I've gone
Explain the joke.
yeah. No. I get where you're coming from.
Some
I was,
celebrity idiots jumped the queue at the Queen's funeral. And
it was that massive queue.
absolutely
There was a
murdered
massive
for
queue.
I'm glad I didn't
I
get
did
that.
suddenly like look
Glad
at
I
you.
didn't get that.
I was just
Thank
like,
God for that.
I mean, that was so abstract. I was like,
Sorry, mate.
I didn't remember. I was like,
It's late
who
for
was-
me as well. I'm
was
supposed
like-
to be in bed.
That's okay. I was looking at that. I was like, I don't remember anyone by that name competing in last year. In the 2020.
Phil.
Don't worry, it's just Dan talking
It's like, I
about
was like
some random
looking at that, going
Queen
like,
thing.
is Hugh Ratman going under a new name now?
After this, I'm going to watch reruns of Celebs Go Dating.
Yeah.
So basically, and the third thing was I was in the middle of moving house, so it was like. I'm in the
This
process.
isn't ideal.
Oh man, it
environment.
was so stressful because I was in the middle of moving house. I was moving into a house that I was moving into to own. I was like, I had all the, the headache with like moving into a house. You're moving all your stuff in.
Oh,
You
mate,
got solicitors,
it's carnage.
contractors to make sure like everything's sound about the
Second
building.
most stressful thing in life after a bereavement.
Really?
Moving
Oh
house.
mate, wow.
Yeah, on
Really?
the stress scales. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, officially. Yeah.
Wow. Well, so there was that. So there was those three things. Moving house. I hadn't made a submission, and I felt like I was like, as a member of like the turntablism community in the UK, I felt like I was kind of like basically taking the piss by accepting it in a weird way. But then at the same time, I said to the guy, at the same time I was really excited because like the other way of looking at it was this could be the kick up the arse to because I've always wanted to do DMC, but I've lacked the confidence and feeling like I could deliver.
And then you're invited.
And then I was invited, and I went for dinner with my partner that evening. The same evening I got the phone call, and I told her like, oh yeah, I got this phone call to like enter the DMCs, and she went, "You said yeah, right? Say yes, you're going to do it." I was like, okay.
Man, we need to do it. We
Thank
need to do an
God.
episode on the women of turntables.
Oh
you know
my
that is
God!
so
Wait,
funny.
wait, no,
Behind
Can
it.
I just say one thing? The best, like, shout out to Boost. I love you so much. She put me on to the term that I was completely unaware of, like post DMC 2024 last year. She goes, "Oh yeah, the DMC widows."
The DMC widows.
Yeah. I think that's just such
it,
a
we'll get my
it's
wife
so
on.
true because like shout out to every girlfriend, wife, partner like that has to like deal with another partner that is competing in these competitions because mate, you will not hear
The
from
clicking
them.
noise alone.
Yeah, and the grunting.
The grunt.
You made a recent video joke about that,
Oh
yeah?
man, Boost filmed like my partner. She filmed me with my headphones on once, and all you can hear is. So it is horrifying.
It's
Like,
not
all you
nice,
can, it's
yeah.
just this.
So I was recording the I was recording the beat juggling course in this studio room, right? And I'm double tracking, right? I've got it coming out of here,
Yeah.
and I've got a headset mic on,
Yeah.
And of course, at some point, I'm going through and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to have to do all the editing on this, and I like turned off the this, and all I could hear was me going, and I was like, oh my God, is that what my wife can hear when she walks past this room late at night? She can just hear this relentless clicking noise and me going, and I was like, God, feel for her.
Boost she constantly points out to me. It's like, it's so funny listening to you practice. Like, she showed me a video of me once. I think
It's definitely better with the audio.
I
on.
love the fact that she would have thought, right, I'm going to show this motherfucker.
Yeah.
He needs to know.
I know. I mean, she already has to put up with the fact that I snore.
Yeah.
So like, I think just that's one thing. That's another thing she now has on me is how horrifically creepy I sound when I'm practicing. Like, but anyway, deviating. I called up. So I love her so much for like being the one that kind of pushed me over the edge to like say yes, because I kind of want to say it's because of her I have this 3rd place thing under my belt.
Yeah.
And I kind of like on the run up to the competition, I had like a couple of people like message me when it was announced that like I was competing in the 2023 DMC with like loads of other people. I got a message from one of the elders who I really respect, Dan in Brighton, and he just said, "Did you do a submission video to get in that?" And I went, and I'm not gonna lie, and I just went, "No." And he went, "Oh yeah, like we've heard like a load of people just got invited in to do it," and I couldn't help but like feel like, like okay,
Crumbles.
yeah.
I know why, because Quest has told me his story about the 2003 set.
Okay.
You know, his like, I think he won that year, didn't he? And he was saying he agonised over that set for like a year, and he like categorically, and what's that thing called? Anyway, he categorically like designed a set to win.
Yeah.
And he literally looked at everything from last year. He's like, what do I have to do to win this competition? And he just zeroed in and just that was it for a year. So I can probably see those old boys thinking, it's a bit bad to just...
Well, it wasn't just that. I felt like well, again, I'm just gonna use the same phrase. There's no other way to describe it. It just looked like I just skipped the queue and gone, yeah, I'm just like, well, hey guys, I'm gonna do this without having to do any of the things that you guys have had to do.
Yeah.
Like I kind of, I just felt there was some element of rudeness to it in a way. Like just, I felt like I hadn't really earned my stripes. I'm sorry, hadn't earned my stripes to kind of have the privilege to compete in this competition.
But weren't you on the back foot from that though? Because if they called you up and asked you to do it, everybody else would have been designing their set and getting their set ready for a year. And suddenly they're just like, could you come and do it, please? And you're like, well, what the fuck am I turning up
I did
with?
feel like that. I did feel like there was like a possibility that there could be some competitors in the UK out there that were like getting something ready, and then for whatever reason they just didn't get lack of a better term, they didn't get the call.
Yeah.
So I did feel there was that. I did feel slightly guilty because of that, but at the same time, I had a lot of fun. I got to know Dan at DMC as well. Got to meet a load of other people. It was my first time meeting Swift. Like I'd never really met. I'd always seen him from afar. I'd never really
legend.
knew. Yeah, he's really, really, really lovely guy. But and I kind of like I'm always will be like appreciative and thankful for being given the opportunity to be in that competition. But the following year, so when I took 3rd place, I was like, I'm going to do it next year, but I want to do it the proper way. I want to retain some. What's the best word for it? Retain some sort of like decency towards me competing in this competition in a way. Like I want to go around through the proper avenues to competing. And so last year, video submission, sent it in.
I remember we were all doing it.
Yeah,
at
we
the
were
same
all
time,
doing
weren't
it.
we?
Yeah, so I sent the video in and then. Oh God, I remember on the run up to it, like because we'd all made our video submissions and we'd all handed them in, and they had to push back the announce
delayed
time.
it and it was painful,
So
wasn't
it was
it?
supposed to be announced in August, and then they pushed it back to September when they were going to announce the UK competitors. And my partner said to me, she goes, it was like mid height of August, and she went, shouldn't you be like practicing for this? And I went, I just want to know if I'm in it or not. I think it was just like it was me just trying to save myself the headache of like, well, what's the point of me? Looking back on it, I kind of go, well, I should have actually been practicing, because then even if I didn't get in,
then you'd have
then I had something else to contribute to the following year and harness and tweak. But my brain just went, I just need to know that I'm actually in it.
I know what you mean. I had the same thing.
And they gave that email. The email came through, and the email came through just shy of 3 weeks before the competition, and I needed to come up with an extra 4 minutes from 3 weeks. Dude, I remember the night before, I said to Sai, Scratch Side, I said to him, I was editing it the night before the competition. like nothing major. I wasn't removing anything. I was just like tweaking a few things. But like, if there's one thing that last year's competition has taught me, it's definitely like just practice as much as you can, regardless of whether you are certain if you're not gonna get in or not. You know?
Yeah.
So we always delve a little bit into the social media side and the business side of DJing and scratch turntablism.
Good, yeah.
And you are doing extremely well
Thanks,
as a
man.
DJ at the
Thank
moment.
you. Thank you very much.
Playing some really good gigs. And yeah, it looks like those gigs are paying you quite well.
Yeah, they do.
Now, now we can say some people that have won the DMCs aren't quite doing as well as you. You know, what do you do, and how do you utilise your achievements in DMC and turntablism and turn that into being a bookable party DJ?
I think it's down to what that artist wants. I think if what they want out of the competition is just the validation that they competed in the competition and not anything else, then I think that's fine. And there are like some people that think that they think all I want to do is to do the competition and that's all I care about. But then again there are people that go and I mean this, I can't speak on experience from this, but there are people that I think have done this competition and gone, oh, I'm just going to do DMCs, I'm going to get this title, and then the gigs are going to absolutely fly in.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
It's
not like, I mean, maybe early in like, I want to imagine, and I can't say this because I wasn't DJing at that time, but I want to say arguably that would have probably definitely been a thing back in the like late 90s, early 2000s, like because
Of course it would.
because it was a big thing. Like you look at Craze.
Random was like, you know, I was on the front of magazines.
Yeah.
Do you know
It
what I
was
mean?
on TV, wasn't
It was
it?
on TV
Yeah.
and all sorts.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
and
gonna-
Craze as well. Like
You're going to pull gigs in that
Walking around with Vivian Westwood.
Yeah.
And
Now it's completely, but the thing is, now it's completely different. You cannot. The reason I do the competition is to just stay on top of my skill set and better myself, and also just but I would be lying if there's like wanting to have a sense of validation from it.
Yeah.
But because like we all, who doesn't want
doesn't want to
that
be
a
validated?
tiny bit?
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing to come away from these competitions is just the experience, really. And I know that sounds like a very kind of cheap thing to say, but like it's kind of
No,
true.
but having been through it, I agree with you.
Yeah. So I think with me, when I was already doing a lot of gigs in the, because my main focus is like so at the beginning, like towards the middle of this podcast, I was saying that I was like, you know, between 2013 and 2019 I was essentially like an open format DJ. But I want to say in roughly like between, so the thing I really enjoyed DJing was drum and bass. My cousin had a big influence on me for that, but around about 2008 or 9 I felt like for me personally, I'm just talking from my personal experience on the thing, I felt like there wasn't really anything interesting coming from drum and bass.
I felt that from 2001.
Yeah, I mean, there was still some good tracks in my opinion from that era, but anything from like 2005, like as soon as Pendulum released Tarantula, I was like, oh,
I don't even know what that is.
Tarantula.
Don't even know what that is. Never heard it.
Oh man, it was a really big like drum and bass anthem. It's almost like the equivalent of.
Well, it was getting paid in Oceania and all that.
Yeah, it was like the equivalent of Badadan.
Or Mr. Happy.
Well, yeah.
Same era, yeah?
Yeah, same kind of era. It was the equivalent of Badadan. It was like 2005's Badadan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
okay.
Like Chasing Status. But so I kind of like lost interest in the drum and bass scene from like 2008 onwards. I was just constantly like listening to old tunes from then and gone. And then I got into turntablism. My focus was on hip hop and like playing out the samples and being really kind of getting into the nitty gritty with loads of like 90s hip hop. And then from like hanging out with Cy and Pete mainly, Pete constantly talked to me about this DJ. We got John first. He's going to come down from Leicester, and I'd never heard of John before. I'd never heard of him. He's like, and Pete was like, yeah, man, he's like the world online champion in 2013. And I remember looking at his set. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like, I really enjoyed that. So that routine was sick.
It's so dope.
So good.
Oh my god!
But I think at the time when I watched it, I must have seen it in like 2015, 2016. I wasn't technically minded to appreciate it enough.
Yeah.
But now when I look at it, I go, God, man. Like, and I was just like, I kind of look back on myself watching that video and go, mate, you had no idea what you were watching.
It's
and
so unbelievably
and it was so good,
tight,
and
it's
then
so aggressive,
and
it's
really
just
aggressive.
really
And I
good.
it kind of like sparked an interest of like the genres he was playing in that routine were like, they really sparked my interest. And then I went to the DMC's World Final in 2016, and Pete and Cy were going. I went up there. I kind of like met up with them, and through being with them, I kind of like met John, but we didn't really talk. It was like we were up in the kind of like where the competition was being held. We were in the kind of like the bandstand area, and we were kind of like sat next to each other, and we kind of just went like that. We just kind of like waved at each other. We didn't really know each other. No one like introduced us to each other. So it was kind of like, I don't know whether it was because like they presumed that we just know each other. You know, that kind of thing where
I know the
where
vibe.
everyone just presumes that you know everyone, so like there's no need to introduce you. Like so that was kind of the situation. So kind of like sat next to him, said it, like waved, and like that was it. Then kept bumping into him a tiny bit, couple of DMs online, maybe on Instagram, and he was playing. Then at the time I had a residency in Brixton at Chip Shop. Shout out to Mike from Chip Shop. I was doing a gig. John was doing a gig around the corner from me when I was playing in Chip Shop on the same night. I finished my set at Chip Shop and I went round to see John, and he was playing with an NTS resident, and you know NTS for the radio station.
Yeah.
So he was like an NTS resident called Tim Parker. Tim and John were like doing a set round the corner from where I was, and I remember John saying to me, "What are you doing in March?" And I was like, "I don't know." And this was like beginning of 2016. He was like, "I'm doing a Boiler Room set."
Oh, that Boiler Room set's cool as well.
If I'm in the background of that video, yeah. So if you look carefully on that Boiler Room set,
You're not in the background going,
Oh, he was, yeah.
I was in the background. Like, there's like, I just wish I picked somewhere else to stand. But like, but it was like, you know what I mean? Just like, I'm just in the background most of John's routine.
Were you doing your best dad moves? Or were you like,
dude, that whole Boiler Room set, it was just full of turntablists.
Yeah.
So you can imagine them just bopping from side to side. They're not really, all they're doing, their internal monologue or their internal characters, they're just going,
what's he doing?
yeah, they're all just like, I felt like everyone was kind of like watching what John was doing with a fine-tooth comb rather than just enjoying the set.
Well, that's kind of the vibe I hoped, because I went to the first live DMC final last year with Dan, and I expected it to be like big screen, seeing exactly what was going on. You're like, oh, what's he doing? And it was just, everybody got drunk, and it was just like a party.
Well,
I was quite depressed. I was quite depressed.
Well, it's the first time I've ever had anyone get about. Well, I kind of like that though. I like that everyone's there to have a bit of fun.
Oh no, I like other people having fun.
You just don't like people. Oh wait, so you like people having fun? Just not yourself.
Just not around me.
All right.
Do you know what I mean? The DMC jump to me was going to be, so cute.
You know what? Were you expecting everyone to be
The
like
grumpiest.
No, I just expect everybody to be like going, oh, that was good. What's he doing there?
No.
And I went there, and then like they didn't have it on screen, and all of the S11ists were just flailing their hands around like that, and I was just like, Well, there's not. I can't. And literally, all you saw from down there was just hands like that.
He was hoping to see two people kind of at the bar going, oh, 2-click flare, oh, 3-click flare.
I was hoping to, like, do you know what I mean? To see above and actually see like some movements and some really interesting stuff.
If in your defence, I kind of do wish that there was like a
screen above.
So that you could actually be able to observe what was going on in real time, because you were like, for those who weren't at the competition, I don't know if there isn't really that much footage. I mean, I'll give you guys some footage of my routine so that people
we need to put it up
so that people can actually see what we were dealing with. Like, you were performing on a stage So anyone, you were essentially at the stage was at pretty much waist chest height. So you couldn't. All you could see was, as you put it rightly, like,
and it was
people's
so
hands were just
far
fading
back.
around.
There were subs in front of the stage, and they put you guys so far back. Like the MC had the entire stage. You boys had like about 2 meters. And I remember stood there watching it, listening to it, like I could understand what was going on there, but I could just see hands flailing, and I was like,
It's really hard.
The person who wins this is the person whose hands blur the most. And I walked in at Tommy Peanut's set, and I could not see his hands move, and I was like, that boy's winning.
Yeah.
No matter what was happening up there, I
Yeah.
could just see fucking fast hands pressing buttons. And do you know what I mean? I'm not going to go on about it, but it was like, you couldn't stick, do you know what I mean? It was just like...
Well, I did feel a bit sorry for Hugh in that sense, Hugh Wackman, right? Because he really did come up with some
that was ridiculous.
innovative ideas, but you couldn't
yeah.
see a lot of them because of the placement of everything and because there was no screen. So I do think that is a thing that would have made it a better experience.
But just to quickly backtrack, so I went to see John do his Boiler Room set, and that Boiler Room set was, for me personally, was I feel extremely important in the direction of where I took my DJ career after that, because what John essentially proved, he essentially made there and then he proved to me that there's new music coming out now that's sonically really interesting.
Dubstep.
No, he was like, John wasn't playing dubstep. He was playing like in that Boiler Room set. It was a mixture of footwork, jungle, and drum and bass.
Okay.
So, he's just got a turntable and a mixer.
Yeah.
It's only one, and he's making the whole thing by looping and stuff.
Oh, okay.
It's worth watching.
It
I'm
really
going to
is.
watch it because we got him in next, haven't we?
Yeah. If you haven't
good.
if you haven't watched John, if anyone watching this hasn't watched John First's 2016 Boiler Room set, please do your
It's an education in the direction of turntablism.
Yeah, it was really, it was very much, it basically, to say it again, it basically proved to me that, there is some really interesting music coming out now that really sparked my interest, and I really wanted to know what that was. And it proved to me that you can apply turntablism to this, like peppering it in and make it really exciting and engaging at the same time. Considering the fact that my background was from drum and bass and jungle, and I loved turntablism, it was like someone going, you can do this. And that scene that you didn't really like the direction. Yeah, it's kind of turned itself around a tiny bit now, and now you can marry the two of them at the same time.
Which
so I always
really well.
It did really well, and like John, if John doesn't know this, like John's like a really like big inspiration to me. Like he really, really is in terms of like where my taste was kind of like from the kind of like underground electronic music scene, where I kind of like got my beats from. Like he introduced me to who Fracture was. He introduced me to Fixate. He introduced me to Ivy Lab. Like he introduced me to a load of artists that were just like I just was not aware of at all, and they were all UK based. And I just thought, this is all stuff that I kind of like I wanted to hear, like in like 2009 and 10. And the thing is, these producers were around, but they just weren't making that kind of drum and bass at the time. The main kind of like drum and bass I was being sold was like big stadium, kind of bombastic drum and bass, and I just was like, I'm not interested. I just wasn't interested in that at all. I mean, I was more up for the kind of more experimental, more sonically interesting drum and bass jungle. Footwork. John was the guy that like introduced me to footwork as well, and it's just that John. It's no surprise that to anyone that like John has a big influence over what I do. So
we're getting to around the 2 hour mark, I think.
I think we'll.
So should we round it up because your kids need to go to bed? I think, or have they already been put to bed?
They're gone to bed
because it's 9 o'clock.
My wonderful wife. Shout out to the DMC widows.
Shout out to the DMC widows. So I like to ask most guests this. We didn't ask Jim this last week because he's not really a DMC guy. So what is your favourite DMC set if you had to pick one? We get every one of them is good. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. And we'll have cuts of just everyone going. Oh.
Yeah. Literally, randoms was the longest fucking hell we've ever seen, wasn't it?
It was just so good. Can I just say, I am still trying to think of which DMC routine I would want to put out, but can I just say that clip is just of the bile behind that F-bomb.
Oh, what? Random's fucking out the biggest fucking hour in the history of man. Yeah,
mate. It was just there was
Literally,
like it was literally just like.
yeah.
It was like, I was like, oh, wow.
He swears with a passion, which is
really
like unchallenged by anybody.
Back to the question.
Back
to the question. So, I would say it's really hard for me to answer that because there's technically two routines that stick out in my head.
Okay, we'll give you a vice and a first place then.
I'm gonna say Clever.
What year?
I want to say it's 2000 I haven't looked at the routine in a really long time. I want to say it's like 2002, 2003.
Okay, and what's your first one?
It's where he it's where he did his like really he did this really dope juggle with Fantasy by Ludacris.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
Oh,
that
dude,
is ridiculous.
That juggle is just so sick.
Okay. And what's your number one?
Oh man, I want to say it was Kentaro.
What year?
2000 and definitely. I think it's definitely 2000 and I think it might be 2004.
Right. Oh, he's just walked right into it. So
is it?
Yeah, big time.
Why?
Big time. So
I can't remember the year. I just know it's Kentaro.
I've got a theory
Right.
that turntablists from that year,
Yeah.
if they were to compete with anybody in last year's winners wouldn't have had a chance.
This is where you bring up where Kentaro's can. Because I I think if I wanted to kind of like give someone an entry level of turntablism, like, okay, here's like the kind of like 101 of like something that's really cool, sonically understanding, isn't complicated and sounds really interesting. It was Kentaro's really famous. He basically put on one turntable 5 long strips of paper of sticky tape.
That's so sick.
That is ridiculously
That
good.
is so
And when
sick.
you don't need to show anyone any turntablism. You just basically put the needle on. You can hear it going, and of course, to anyone who doesn't know turntablism, that makes sense. It's just the paper, the needle hitting the paper. But then when you combine it with the record that was on the other side was a guitar tone that goes from one octave down to another one, just like the technicality of lifting
The needle
and moving it to each key of the octave, every semitone, and keeping it in time with the rotation of those 5 pieces of paper on the vinyl, stripped across the entire platter. You don't need to know anything about turntablism to sonically just to look at that and at first glance go, that's so cool.
That's so
like
mad.
and just being able to like, and also tweaking the feel, like the what was he doing?
It was an EX
plays with the
1200,
filters,
and basically, if you take the bass out of an EX 1200,
it gives like a filter effect. Yeah. It was just like being able to do it over all of them whilst up on the ups. Yeah, that's definitely like, if I wanted to show someone, this is like one of the coolest clips from Turntablism at its like, I don't want to say at its peak, but at like when it was like when creativity was like rife.
Yeah.
Like, this was really cool. Of course, everyone will say like Craze's routines are really good. Like they are. It's just unquestionable. Craze's stuff is always ridiculous. It will always be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to, for the sake of not wanting to sound like, typical, I wanted to put Clever and Kentaro in there because those were like, I'd always been shown Craze's stuff. Like everyone knows that Craze is sick. But I remember like being really early in my turntablism, and someone showed me that Kentaro trick, because I think it ended up being like used for an advert in Japan as well.
Did it really?
Yeah, it did.
Oh,
Because like
that's amazing.
I'll show you we'll put the clip up on that. I don't know what advert it was for, but he's in but Kentaro's in this like kind of like white background, mirrored background, and it's just the last minute of his routine from his DMC competition. And it was used as a
sellotape advert. Well, I suppose on that then.
Should we call that?
I think we need to call. Are you going to close it, or are we just going to press stop?
I think we just close it, mate.
Keep it in.
Well,
Everybody needs to hear.
thanks for having me, guys.
Absolute legend,
Guys,
Revrt. Thank
Been
you
an
so
absolute
much, mate.
pleasure, mate. You've
Cheers,
been a
guys.
hero. Good luck in the 2025 DMC.
Thank you very much, man.